Terraform Lab founder Kwon brings forward a Luna recovery plan over the weekend in hopes to save the failing Luna project in light of the downfall of the UST stablecoin. But will this plan actually work in saving the once top 10 cryptocurrency? Let's talk about it. Before clicking on this video, if you have no idea what is going on with Luna and UST and you're hearing all the noise that's been going on, I've already done a video depicting and going over what exactly happened to Luna and to UST and what led to the death spiral that we saw over the last week. If you'd like to check out that video where I do a brief explanation of how that relationship worked and what led to its initial downfall, you can go ahead and click on the icon that is appearing on your screen now. For those that are already caught up with what is going on with Luna, let's hop right into this recovery plan that was presented by Kwon himself in a blog post. Now, of course, I will leave a link to the full blog post if you'd like to read through that full post on your own. Of course, I'm not going to bore you guys with reading the entire blog post, but I really wanted to focus on the elements of the recovery plan in and of itself. Before we go into the portion of the blog post that goes over the Luna recovery plan, I did want to mention that at least the first half of the blog post, Kwon goes over the fact that the UST project in and of itself is a complete failure and that there is absolutely no trust left inside of that system. He essentially says the elements of this project that are actually worth recovering is the community and other projects that were built around the Luna ecosystem and not the UST project in and of itself that ultimately failed its peg. So his proposition was as follows: the Terra community must reconstitute the chain to preserve the community and the developer ecosystem, which I mentioned before is the portion of this project that he believes is the part worth recovering. He continues by saying validators should reset the network ownership to 1 billion tokens distributed among 400 million or 40% to Luna holders before the depegging event. Last $1 tick before the depeg on Binance should be reasonable. B-Luna, LunaX, and Luna held in contract should also be recipients, minus the Terraform Labs account at that given account. The new chain should be community owned. Preserving decent ownership of the network in its strongest believers and builders is important. 400 million tokens, or 40%, to UST holders pro rata at the time of the new network upgrade. UST holders need to be made whole as much as possible, with 100 million tokens or 10% to Luna holders at the final moment of the chain halt. Last minute marginal Luna buyers should be compensated for their role in attempting to provide stability for the network. And the last 100 million or 10% to the community pool to fund future development. All Luna besides the third tranche should be staked at the network genesis state. The network should incentivize its security with a reasonable inflation rate, say 7%, as fees will no longer be enough to pay for security without the swap fees. Now, afterwards, he goes over his call to action, or rather his justifications as to why he sees this as the best way to move forward, basically saying that UST holders should own a large portion of the network. He basically comments about the future of the Terra network, and as I said before in the first half of his thing, basically says it's the community and the development within that community that needs to be preserved moving forward, and not necessarily UST in and of itself. Now, of course, there has been proposals made on whether they decide to fork or whether they decide to burn, and a lot of other aspects that have been put forward within the community. Now, a notable figure, CZ, who is the CEO of Binance, actually commented this on a quoted tweet from Linnell. So the original tweet from Linnell says, a final solution for Terra money and a stable Kwan and community. Number 1, have a hard fork to Terra 2. Number 2, a snapshot of all holdings before collapse trigger and provide holders with the new Luna version 2. Number 3, create a new, better chain with Luna 2 and UST 2. And 4, pool to repay old UST peg. And 5, and number 5, build. CZ quote tweeted this by saying his personal opinion, with of course not being financial advice, is that this won't work. Forking does not give the new fork any value. That's wishful thinking. One cannot void all transactions after an old snapshot, both on-chain and off-chain in exchanges. Where is all the BTC that was supposed to be used as reserves? Segueing off of what CZ just said there actually, as at least reported by CNBC and many others, that $3 billion worth of Bitcoin was actually sold last week in a last-ditch effort to attempt to save UST stablecoin from its initial collapse as the fallout began to happen last week. So we have seen that the Luna Foundation Guard that was established by Kwon himself actually did attempt to use Bitcoin, BNB, Avalanche, USDT, and other cryptocurrencies to try to save the USD stablecoin from its collapse, but was completely unsuccessful in being able to do so. Of course, CZ and Kwan are not the only individuals proposing recovery plans for the project. If you actually go to agora.terra.money, which of course I will leave a link to in the video description, there is a list of a bunch of different blog posts and ideas presented by the community on ways they can go ahead and build upon and improve either the recovery plan that was put forward by the Kwan or other recovery plans that have been put forward by other community members. Now, I think the question a lot of people are asking about Do Kwan's recovery plan is, does something like that actually work? Now, of course, it's impossible to say if it will or if it won't, unless, of course, it's tried first. So, of course, I would like to hear your guys' input on if you guys think this will work. Of course, nothing I say in this video is financial advice and is intended for educational and entertainment purposes only. Now, with that disclaimer out of the way, my personal opinion is I think it's going to be extremely difficult to win back the trust and support from the community of holders that were initially there at the peak of the Luna project. I definitely think regardless of what happens with the recovery plan, there will be new people brought into the Luna community as well as old Luna community holders that would like to rally behind really any idea that could sow any seeds of hope for the project moving forward. Now, personally, I think in order for Luna to have any form of recovery, the entire infrastructure of how Luna works would need to be dramatically and radically changed in order to prevent any issues that it was initially founded upon, which led to the initial downfall of UST and Luna to begin with. If those issues can be completely overcome and there is a reasonable solution, whether it is one that was similar to Do Kwan's original proposal or a different one that the community comes forward with, I think it's going to take a lot of time to win back any form of trust from the community. So for those that are out there looking for a quick flip on a purchase of Luna right now to see that instantly go up hundreds of thousands of percent, I just don't see how something like that is going to be possible to happen. Now, of course, my reasonings as to why and a further look at what would happen if something like that was to occur will have to be for another video. But for the time being, as I see this recovery plan as proposed, I think that there is a lot more going against this plan than there is things going for it, with the massive lack of trust that has been pushed against the network, even with the support of the new members entering the community. Of course, I'm totally open to my opinion on this matter to be completely disproven and of course be wrong. In fact, I would actually love to see that Luna is able to do a complete 180, recover, and be able to build back up to where it was historically. But of course, I want to pass the question back off to you guys. What do you guys think about these events? And do you guys think this recovery plan is a reasonable one that will build back the Luna project back to its former glory? If you've come in this far in the video, don't forget to smash the like button, subscribe to the channel if you're new here and you'd like to see more cryptocurrency related content, and I will catch you in my next video. Cheers.